Hello again. I keep coming across the expression far right lately, and I'm blessed if I know what it actually means. On Monday, I had an email from an Irish journalist who told me that after I had poked a little gentle fun at a cartoon figure which a publisher in Dublin had placed on their Twitter feed, the publisher had been apparently targeted by far right trolls. Over the weekend, a session involving a drag queen hosting a children's event at the Tate Gallery in London had seen people peacefully protesting outside the gallery, and the newspapers described these folk too as being from the far right. And then, of course, the parents and other people from the community in Knowsley near Liverpool had staged a demonstration shortly before the weekend to make their feelings known about their daughters being targeted and sexually propositioned while on their way home from school. This too was dismissed as the actions of those of the far right. Before going any further, I wonder if anybody has noticed that the expression far right is much more commonly encountered than that of far left. Googling these terms will soon show that far right is hugely more popular. One sees demonstrations in favour of immigration and people welcoming refugees, in which all the placards bear at the bottom the name of the Socialist Worker Party, and yet the newspapers never seem to describe such events as being organised by the far left. I find this a little odd. There is, of course, a value judgment in the use of either phrase. Left-wing people, and many journalists lean more to the left than they do to the right, tend to gloss over the fact that many of the displays of affection for asylum seekers and homosexuals are organised by communists or those who believe in dismantling the current structure of our society. The same thing goes, obviously, for many supporters of the Black Lives Matter movement. Show them somebody who is patriotic, though, and sticks up for the rights of ordinary heterosexual people in this country, and many journalists are prone to take a sharp intake of breath, and then there's a narrowing of the eyes as they start typing about far-right thugs. It's a useful phrase because, of course, far-right automatically summons up the spectre of Hitler and Mussolini. Far-right means fascism. It's associated in the minds of many people with the Holocaust and all sorts of other horrors. Of course, communists killed many people in China and the Soviet Union, to say nothing of Cambodia, but somehow calling somebody far left is not as potent. It does not evoke the same visceral feeling of disgust which far right seems to. From all that I'm able to apprehend over the last few days, those who contacted the publisher of that awful cartoon version of a legendary Irish queen painted black were far right because they didn't like seeing their country's cultural heritage being meddled with just to pander to some modern fad. The comments which were made on Twitter, and I'll give a few of these later today, didn't seem to me to indicate any political leaning at all. Calling those people who tweeted those things far-right trolls was simply a way of saying that the publisher did not like their views. Knowsley, on the edge of Liverpool, is a very deprived area which is solidly and overwhelmingly Labour, and always has been. I doubt any right-wing person would receive a very warm welcome there. It was the fact that many parents took to the streets to complain about their children being hassled by men who had been dumped in the area, which was unacceptable to Liberals. That these people chanted nonces out was seemingly the final confirmation that the crowd indeed consisted of members of the far right. Who else could possibly object to the presence in their community of foreign nonces? What about the folk who picketed the Tate Gallery? Well, now, I would not personally have wanted my child to attend an event run by a flamboyant drag queen. I don't even know why a national art gallery would be laying on something of this kind, rather than, say, a workshop for children to explore the arts which they might see there. Is it really indicative of far-right sympathies to think in those terms? I invite viewers to pause for a moment and first consider when last they saw some action or protest labelled as being far left. Has anybody seen those words used lately, even in connection with picket lines or strikes, which are without doubt organised by people who are hardline socialists or communists? Anybody seen the phrase far left thugs at all? Now think about how commonly we read about far right things. Far right terrorism, far right thugs, far right protests, far right literature. This expression trips off the tongue a lot more readily, doesn't it? I'm bound to ask, is the far right really more active in Britain than the far left? Forget for a moment which side you place yourself politically, that is to say, where your own prejudices lie. Does anybody seriously think that there is more far right activism in this country than there is that organised by the far left? I suppose that it might be suggested that I have a stake in this, since, of course, it is widely alleged that this channel is of the far right, but to my mind that too is merely a sign of how loosely the term is used, as an all-encompassing catch-all phrase which ultimately means no more than that a person disapproves of something or somebody.